salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى والذي خلق السماوات والأرض بغير عمد ترونها تبارك وتعالى هو الأول والآخر وإليه المنتهى نحمده ونستعينه ونثني عليه ونؤمن به ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف بريته ومبلغ رسالاته العبد المؤيد الرسول المسدد المحمود الأحمد أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين عباد الله أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله. I encourage all of us to remember the taqwa of Allah and the obedience and servitude of Allah throughout our lives, inshallah. Inshallah, this week for Jumma, I just wanted to speak about things that are related to Muharram and Arba'een. In this first khutbah, I just want to share something that some of us have already heard, of course, from Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But there are some lessons in what he has said in this hadith that I'm going to share with you. And this story has to do with Farazdaq, the famous poet of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Farazdaq is interesting. They say that when he was young, his father took him to Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam, and he told him that my son is going to be a poet, or is a poet. And so Imam Ali says to him, which this is also something that we should keep in mind, that poetry, okay, but Quran is priority. And so it says, he tells his father that you should first make sure that he has taken care of the Quran first. And so Farazdaq, it says in that report, he ties himself, or something like that, ties his feet or something until he memorizes the entire Quran. So I mean, when you're young, yeah, you have that drive, you know. That's why it's so important to start young. A person like me now, I won't be able to get anything done if I want to, you know. But when you're younger, yes, you will go out of your way for things, and you have that faragh, you have that opportunity. You don't have too much responsibility. Okay, so this is Farazdaq. Let's fast forward to the time of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Now, once again, I mean, Farazdaq, you all know, he's known for this he's famous for that story in Mecca, yes, during, was it Hajj or Umrah? I think it was Hajj, yeah? That Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik, then he was the crown prince, but he later on became Khalifa, one of the children or descendants of Marwan. He's there in Mecca, I mean, he's pretty famous, and he wants to make it to the Hajj al-Aswad. Because it's very, very mustahab and recommended to kiss the Hajj al-Aswad during the tawaf and so on. And so he can't make it to the Hajj al-Aswad. So it's not just today that Mecca is always, of course, I'm talking, not in COVID context here, of course. Now it's probably easy to get to Hajj al-Aswad. But those of you who've been, and inshallah we are able to go again and again, Hajj al-Aswad is not something you can get close to that easily in the Hajj season. So you would think maybe it's because of today, everyone can easily take a flight to Mecca. Going for Hajj isn't as hard as it was 1400 years ago, but look at that. 1400 years ago even, it's hard to get to the Hajar al-Aswad. This is the barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyway, Hisham can't make it to the Hajar al-Aswad. He tries again and again. He can't make it. You all know the story. And so eventually he just gives up and goes to the side, and they make him a little place to sit on, and because he's an important person, he's VIP. But then what happens is that he notices somebody else comes and goes to the Hajar al-Aswad, and people open up a way for him. And that's none other than Imam Zayn al-Abidin Sajjad alayhi salatu wassalam. So this is he doesn't like this. Hisham doesn't like this, and so he says, who's this person? You know who he is. He says, who's this person? And so Farazdak is there. And Farazdak calls him out on this. He says, you know who he is. If you don't know who he is, let me tell you who he is. Yeah, and so he begins to recite poetry about Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. That this is the one that the valley of Mecca knows. This is the one that Mina knows. This is the one. Everyone knows him. What do you mean I don't know who this person is? Anyway, so this Farazdak now, this story that I want to share with you is that he was leaving Iraq during the time of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Leaving Iraq for Mecca, for Hajj. And so he runs into Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein, what are you doing? Weren't you supposed to be in Mecca? Aren't you supposed to be busy with the Hajj? Hajj is around the corner. And of course Imam Hussein tells him, I had to leave because they were going to apprehend me. Or even take his life, of course. And we all know that Imam Hussein, he says that I'm not going to let the sanctity of Masjid al-Haram be broken and compromised because I'm going to be selfish to protect myself there. Unlike what Abdullah bin Zubayr did years later. He went into the Kaaba itself and hid when the forces of the Marwanites came after him. And they eventually, some say they totaled the Kaaba to get their hands on him. And Ayatollah Jawadi here, he says, this shows that these people were enemies of Islam itself. You could have just gone in, opened the door of the Kaaba and pulled him out. But instead you decided to destroy the Kaaba to get your hands on Abdullah bin Zubayr. That's a different story now. Farazdak, he says, what are you doing outside of Hajj? He says, look, they were going to attack me, they were going to take me in, they were going to kill me, whatever, so I had to leave. So Farazdak is on his way to Hajj. And so the Imam asks him, you're coming from Iraq. Tell me about Iraq. What's going on in Iraq? Because that's where I'm headed. And so Farazdak, he says something which is very heartbreaking, of course, but I want to take some lessons from this, and most of us have heard this before, this story, where he says that their hearts are with you. The people of Iraq and Kufa, their hearts are with you. They know your haqq, they know everything that they're supposed to know about you, and they love you, it seems. Their hearts are with you, but their swords are against you. And so he says, all decree is in Allah's hands, and whatever He wishes will be. Farazdak says this to Imam Hussein. What does Imam Hussein say in response? Imam Hussein says, Sadaqta wallah wa kulla yawmin huwa fi sha'an. You don't need to teach me about Tawheed. Yes, Allah is going to be in charge of everything. As a matter of fact, there's a plan in place that probably you don't know about, and I might have some awareness of. Imam Hussein. He says, yes, you're right. By Allah, it is all in His hands, and Allah is always busy taking care of things. So that's number one lesson right there Imam is teaching us. In this big situation, yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now Farazdak also understands this. So then Imam goes on. He says, if things go the way we wish, I find this very inspirational, by the way. The lines that I'm about to read, I find it very inspirational for us. If things go the way we wish and are happy with, so there are things that we would want things to end in a certain way, brothers and sisters, for us in our lives. If things go the way we wish and are happy with, that we're happy with, we will be grateful for His blessings. And He is the one we invoke for us to be able to do justice in thanking Him. So there's nothing wrong in wishing things, trying to make things go a certain way. If I remember the wording, Imam Ali alayhi salam was asked about, or he was speaking about sickness versus being healthy. And he says, look, I prefer being healthy. But in the end, it's whatever he wants, and I'm okay with whatever he wants. So Imam Ali has a preference, that's fine. We are human beings at the end of the day. So Imam Hussein here says, we're going to keep going. Things are in Allah's hands. If things go the way we would like them, we're thankful to Allah. Not only are we thankful, we're going to ask Allah to give us tawfiq to do proper thanks to Him for this blessing. And if things fall between us and what we desire, Imam Hussein says, anyone who has pure intentions and taqwa rules his heart will not go wrong. You can't go wrong, in other words, if you have these two. Pure intentions, yes, and taqwa. Taqwa means you identify what your wazifa and responsibility is in a given scenario, and you try to execute. Number one, identifying. It's not that easy sometimes. You know, there's lots of cases where a person will think they're doing something for Islam. A certain individual for them represents all of Islam. A certain place, a certain mosque, a certain anything will represent Islam itself. They will stop at nothing then to make sure that they prop this up. No. Identifying is part of the deal here, and it's hard sometimes to be able to separate layer from layer to figure out exactly what we're dealing with. Number one. So identification. It's wrong to think that, oh, we'll do whatever we need to, Allah will take care of the rest. Sometimes this line is misunderstood. You do your part, Allah will take care of the results. Yes, that's true. But identifying your part, if you get it wrong, then you're going to mess up everything. Some of the most extreme people that, a few years ago, alhamdulillah, they've been wiped out kind of now. The ideology is not wiped out, but, ISIS, for example, were they all people that were trying to, cause havoc, all of them? Some of them, they really thought they're on the right path. They really thought. If you watch some of their videos, after they're caught and the interviews that they have with them, you're like, whoa, this is scary because this guy actually thinks he's on the right path. So identifying the right path itself is part of the deal here, brothers and sisters. And especially in this day and age, the margin for error is very narrow. To get it wrong and just be like, oh, Allah will forgive. Well, in the past, things were a little different. Even in the past, we see the mistakes that people made, how it ended up. How things ended up 1,000 years later, for example. Let alone today. It was super important for us to be super careful about identifying where we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to be doing, what we're supposed to be saying, etc. So, having that with pure intentions is part of taqwa, and then executing, that's also going to be hard. So it's two parts, brothers. There's two parts to the deal here. Identification and then execution. With the execution, once I identify, okay, this is something that I need to do and it goes against my comfort, it's going to be hard. Well, excuse me, that's why we're here. That's why Allah brought us here. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. So that He can see who is going to walk the walk. That's just what it's all about. No one gets anywhere in this life without making sacrifices. End of story. All right, so that's the most important lesson that I'm getting out of this saying of Imam Hussein. But look, he also makes another point here that, well, not he, just the whole story itself is giving us this point that, look, these people, if you were to ask them, who do you like more, Yazid or Imam Hussein, according to this, their hearts are somewhere else. Their hearts are with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And so this is a wake-up call for everyone. We've heard this again and again and again. Your heart may be someplace. That's fine. That's good. Better than nothing. But till the action does not match what the belief is, where the heart is, it does not count. Like, how many times do we have to hear this? And that's where the sacrifice has to be made. But this taqwa, once a person has it, everything is set. Look at this. When Abu Dhar al-Ghifari is being exiled by Uthman, of course the Shi'i school says he was sent into exile. But others who will revere the Khulafa, they will say that no, he left on his own terms. Whatever it is, whatever the story is, Imam Ali in Nahj al-Balagha, as he is bidding him farewell, yes, he tells Abu Dhar al-Ghifari something here. He says, look, وَلَوْ أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرَضِينَ كَانَتَا عَلَى عَبْدٍ رَتْقًا. If a person is in a situation, like Abu Dhar, you're in a situation right now that the samawat and aradeen are closed on you, they're sealed on you. Sometimes you're just getting smothered, you're just suffocating. You're like, what is the way out of this, right? All you know is what I can do. I don't know what the end result's going to be, but all I know is that this is the taqwa that I have to have in this situation. What did Prophet Yusuf do? Did he run through? Did he try to find an open door to run out of? All the doors were locked. غَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابِ. They had locked. She had locked all the doors. But what did he do? He ran towards locked doors. So the amount of taqwa he could have had, he actually exhibited. All right, I got 30 yards to run, 20 yards to run, but it's a closed door. Well, yeah, but I can stay away from this guna 20 yards out, at least. And that's what he did. Before you know it, who's the one who opened the door? The Aziz of Misr himself opened the door. The first witness of what's going on is Aziz of Misr himself. He doesn't know the details, but he sees that this guy's running away, right? All right, so when the heavens and the earth are closed on an individual, what they need to do is identify the taqwa in that situation. I don't know what the end result is going to be. Is it going to end up good? Is it not going to end up good? Well, what is the taqwa now in this situation? Identify, execute. So Imam Ali here says to Abu Dhar, he says, look, in other words, he's telling Abu Dhar, you did what you were supposed to do, and this is the end result. You're getting kicked out of Medina. All right? You're getting kicked out of Medina, but look, ثُمَّ اتَّقَى اللَّهَ لَجَعَلَ اللَّهُ لَهُ مِنْهُمَا مَخْرَجًا. If a person eventually does what they need to do, Allah will give a way out in that situation. Now, there are exceptional situations where Allah wants things to just collapse on us. Imam Hussein taught us this. Brothers and sisters, people come, complain a lot. They say, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. What does Allah have with me? What kind of, so to speak, beef does Allah have with me? What's his problem that he has with me? The answer is, did Allah have a problem with Imam Hussein? That's my question. The most bala fell upon Imam Hussein. So we have to understand that that's not a sign of just Allah hating. No, it's a sign that, okay, I better try to figure out what my taqwa is here. Imam Hussein says, my taqwa is I will not give bay'ah. I will go from land to land. Land and sea, wherever it takes, I cannot give bay'ah. Finished. That's my taqwa. Well, Imam Hussein, you're going to get killed. He got killed, but look at this. 1400 years later, we see the results and fruits of this. So the taqwa will always yield some fruit, whether short term, long term, if not anything in the akhirah. Yeah, that's one. And that's why we have hadith by Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida alayhi salatu wassalam for this idea of how important it is to have Allah's satisfaction first. Figure that out. Faqr and poverty in Islam, they're not something that we are encouraged to have. Okay? Some people might say that Arif was faqir, this person, that prophet was faqir. Inshallah, when I'm a prophet, I'll be faqir. Or when I'm an Arif, I'll be faqir. Okay? That's just not how it works. Look at all the other hadiths we have that no, when faqr comes, religiosity and faith goes. Alright? No, we have a wazifa to make a halal living. Alright, but that's one thing. Look at the wording of the hadith by Imam al-Rida. He says, Al-faqru fillah ahabbu ilayhi min al-ghina. Yes, if I have to choose between wealth, but dissatisfaction of Allah, and then poverty, and then satisfaction of Allah being in that, I will choose that one. Look at the wording. Don't say if I have to choose between wealth and poverty, I'll choose poverty. He says if poverty is going to be accompanied with Allah's satisfaction, there will be cases that I'll have a good deal that I can, make some good money off of. But I will reject that. I'll put it aside. There's stories from ulama, I don't have time to get into this. Very interesting. How they had opportunities to make a lot more, but they would put it aside, dismiss that offer. Why? Because Allah's satisfaction is not there. So going back again, the situation calls for us to figure out where Allah's satisfaction lies. Sometimes we have to speak to a scholar, sometimes we have to refer to the book, sometimes we have to send an email to the office of our marja, so on and so forth. It's going to take work. Just tell me what I need to do, I'll do it. The problem, I don't have a problem doing what I need to do, but figuring it out is the problem for me. Well, excuse me, that's part of the work. Right? People, lots of times you talk to them, I've never done qunut in my 50 years of my life. All right, why aren't you doing it? I'm willing to give it. If I just know the number, I'll give it. I just don't have the time to spend to figure it out. Habibi, that's part of it. That's part of it. And then the Imam Rida goes on to say this as well. This really applies to Imam Hussein, where he found satisfaction of Allah somewhere, and he went towards that. Look at this. It says, وَالذِّلَّةُ فِي اللَّهِ أَحَبُّ إِلَيْهِ مِنَ الْعِزَّةِ. I want you to pay attention to this now. Zillat, Imam Hussein said, Hayhat minna zillah, right? We have nothing to do with zillah and lowliness and abaseness. We're not, wherever lowliness is, we're going to be on the other side. Here though, Imam al-Rida says, this person prefers dhillah over izzah. So how do we reconcile these two? How we reconcile them is, sometimes there is dhillah in the eyes of the people, in the eyes of Ubaidullah bin Ziyad, and sometimes there is izzah in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here, it says, adhillatu fillah, that this person will choose, a person who has taqwa, a person who understands things the way they're supposed to be understood, will choose lowliness. You're telling me when they trampled the body of Imam Hussein, that's not lowliness in their eyes? Of course it is. Imam Hussein chose that. Why? Because Allah is next to it. Satisfaction of Allah is next to it. And so, I don't want izzah, your izzah. Or else we all understand, that is actual izzah in Allah's eyes. That faqr that I choose, that Allah's satisfaction is going to be on the side of, inshallah that never happens, but if I have to, I will. That is ghina in Allah's eyes. Why? Because at the end of the day, this life will end. And then we'll see who the wealthy ones really are. So these are some lessons we take from this little encounter that Imam Hussein had with Farazdaq on his way to Karbala, and with Farazdaq leaving Iraq and those lands. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد صدق الله العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين أثني عليه حامدا وأذكره مسبحا لا إله إلا هو له الأسماء الحسنى والمثل الأعلى تبارك وتعالى ثم أصلي وأسلم على نجيبه وحبيبه وحافظ سره الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرضين بأبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل وسلم على علي أمير المؤمنين وعلى فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين وعلى سبطي نبي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة اللهم صل وسلم على أئمة الهدى علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف القائم المهدي حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات عباد الله أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله. Once again, I encourage and remind all of us to observe this taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this treasure, which is the obedience of Allah, and to pursue His satisfaction in everything that we do, inshallah. Since we are getting closer and closer to Arba'in, and we never get a chance to speak about an individual by the name of Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari, I thought it would be good to touch a little bit on his story. Hopefully we'll have enough time for that. I don't know what time I'm supposed to end. But Jabir bin Abdullah is the one that kind of, you can say, because there's difference of opinion whether the caravan of Imam Hussein returned from Sham to Karbala or went straight to Medina. But one thing that's for sure is that Jabir bin Abdullah actually did go to Karbala on the day of Arba'in for ziyarah, and that's why they refer to him as the first one who performed ziyarat of Imam Hussein after his shahadat. With the caravan of Imam Hussein, there are heavyweights on both sides that some say no, definitely they did, some say no, we're not, it's not proven to us. That's a different story, I don't want to get into that. But what's for sure is that ziyarat of Arba'in is alive today. Ayatollah Jawadi, he has a nice line, he says that ziyarat Arba'in, this ziyarat of Arba'in, we have Arba'in for other Imams even. They would do that in the time of the, way back in the beginning. They would do that for the first 40 days that would pass after the martyrdom of some of the Imams. He even says that Ahlul Sunnah even had it, some of them. But he says that was just for the first 40 days that passed. But for Imam Hussein, the Arba'in is going to go on till Yawm al-Qiyamah, he says. There's something different about Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, yes. And so, anyway, who's the one who started this though? You can argue that yes, Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari is one of the ones who started this whole thing. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about him. He's one of those companions, he's not as highlighted as you would expect. Because he's the one, lived the longest. Everyone knows this. Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari lived the longest out of the companions. I think I heard one of these shaykhs from the Sunni school even, he was saying that, he's the last of the companions to pass away. Something along those lines. Anyway, he for sure is one of the oldest ones, and the Prophet, they say, had told him that he's going to live a long life. But why isn't he spoken of as much? Well, he has certain stances that puts him in another group of Sahaba that will not be spoken about too much. Why isn't Miqdad not spoken about too much? Why is Abu Dharr al-Ghifari not spoken about too much? It seems that Jabir bin Abdullah will fall under that category, although his merits cannot be denied and overlooked. And so as a result, you will find that they will speak about him, but he's not in that tier of Sahaba that will be really blown up either. Okay? All right, so now, why are we even talking about this? Why am I even bringing this up? Because really, when you look at it, no other companion is like him. To have seen Rasulullah all the way to Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. That's 6 infallibles plus Fatimah al-Zahra, 7 infallibles that he has been alive during their time. SubhanAllah, that's really a blessing. So I want to say, he has seen it all. He's seen it all. Those 50 years after after the Holy Prophet's demise, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all the way till Imam Hussein's shahada, and after his shahada, these are the most controversial years of Islamic history, I will say. The time of the Khulafa, Uthman's assassination, the battles of the 3 battles, all of this, he's been there, plus the Prophet's time as well. From the beginning of the Prophet's time. Not like one of those dudes that came in the end and said, I'm Muslim now because I got no choice anyway. No, we're talking, he's part of Bay'atul Aqaba. Look that up. Bay'atul Aqaba, people came to Mecca from Yathrib of then, which is now Medina. They came, they gave their bay'ah to the Prophet. They said, you are in danger, you want to leave Mecca, we will take you in with open arms. This happened outside, during the Hajj season, outside towards Mina, on one of those valleys. It was a secret thing that took place. The 12th year after Hijrah, one of these bay'ahs took place, with 12 people or something. Then about 70 something came the next year from Medina. This second bay'ah of Aqaba, Jabir bin Abdullah is a young kid. He's there with his father. And his father is made one of the 12 representatives of the tribes of Yathrib by the Holy Prophet ﷺ. So he's there from the beginning till the end. Right? He's seen it all. All right, so it's nice to talk about him, although we don't have too much time to speak about him. But I will say a little bit about him. It says that I was looking at the list of the battles that he had participated in with the Holy Prophet. Man, the first 2 he wasn't in though. Badr and Uhud he wasn't. Because his father tells him, you have to stay back and take care of the family, I'll go. His father becomes shaheed in Uhud. After his father becomes shaheed, yes, he is in almost every single battle with the Holy Prophet ﷺ. This is a huge medal of honor by Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari. Then you move on to after the Holy Prophet, and it says that we don't have much information about how he was in the time of the first 3 Khulafa, except that he was a teacher. So it seems he might have kind of, just taken a back seat when he sees all these fitnas taking place. And so he's teaching and just teaching Islam to the people. But then you move on into the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam becoming Khalifa. It says that he was in those 3 battles on the side of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, to the point that he's been quoted to have said, Ash-shakku fi harbi aliyin ka-shak fi harbi Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That a person who has shak in fighting alongside Ali is as if they have shak in fighting alongside Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like that, you'll have a problem with their iman, as if a person says, no, I shouldn't be fighting alongside the Prophet. No. Now this can be for different reasons. It can be from a Shia perspective, makes perfect sense, of course. But even from a non-Shi'i perspective, we're talking about the first 4 Khulafa. They are all referred to as Ar-Rashidun, the rightly guided ones, the rightly chosen ones, the ones that we're sure got it right in getting chosen in one way or another. All right? Who in their right mind, not Shia, forget Shia, who in their right mind of Muslimin will fight against a rightly guided Khalifa? So even if your standards are different than a Shia, still, this is what the Shia is always asking, and we still haven't gotten the answer to it. That how is it that not fighting alongside them is equal to, how is it that you can not fight alongside that person, which is a rightly guided Khalifa, but feel that you would fight alongside the Holy Prophet in his time? If these are rightly guided Khalifas, rightly chosen Khalifas, and so on. But anyway, this line here, it really reflects the basira of Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari. So later on, when he goes for ziyarat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you can understand where this is coming from. A person that's been alongside the Prophet for that long, alongside Amir al-Mu'mineen for that long, and once again, there's a nice story here that I don't have time to get into, after the Battle of Nahrawan and how, what happened. There's an interesting story with a Christian priest and Imam Ali, where Jabir bin Abdullah is telling us the story of that. But let's move on now. Let's move on to the time of Muawiyah and the Umayyads ruling. I'll just share one thing with you here, that it says that Muawiyah wanted to remove and transfer the mimbar of Rasulullah from Medina to Sham. Don't forget, I've said this a ton of times. Don't forget, brothers and sisters, the Banu Umayyah, for 20 years, Muawiyah worked on the people of Sham. There was no social media back then. So when you talked about Ahlul Bayt, if you lived in Sham, Ahlul Bayt, the first thing that would come to your mind was what? Banu Umayyah. Because at the end of the day, they are Quraysh. They're related to the Prophet. They're the only Ahlul Bayt we have. No one knew Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. No one knew Bibi Zainab alayhi salam. No one knew these people. Yes? And there are some interesting stories in that regard as well, of how the people were like, oh, this is one of the children of Rasulullah. Yeah, didn't you know? No, they're living in Sham. They take whatever the media tells them there. Whatever Muawiyah is teaching them. And so Muawiyah, of course, he seized the opportunity to take the mimbar of Rasulullah from Medina to Sham. Now think about it. What would have happened if this actually takes place? Right? These are the things that the likes of Imam Hussein stood in the face of. If Yazid was given that stamp of approval by Imam Hussein, before you know it, the mimbar of Rasulullah is going to be there. And before you know it, Islam is gone. Anyway, during the time of Muawiyah, it says he wanted to do that. Who stood up against him? Jabir, it says he got up, because he's a respectable Sahabi at the end of the day. He's the one who gets up and goes to Muawiyah and says, no, you're not allowed to do this. And apparently stops him from doing that. During the time of Imam Hussein, after the Shahadat of Imam Hussein, look, we have to understand, it's not like, oh, like today we go for Ziyarat Arba'in if we can. It wasn't like that. After Shahadat of Imam Hussein, don't think things got better. For years, Ahlul Bayt were suppressed. And there was some serious censorship. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam, after his Shahada, what happens is that there's a lot of censorship. You get in big trouble. These guys are at the peak of their power right now because they have defeated Imam Hussein. There's nothing left. No one left to stand up against anybody. So right now, they're really gloating. They're really big. And then for you to get up, defy the commands and the protocols that are in place to go visit Imam Hussein's grave, you are making a huge statement. This itself, I would say, is like a movement. Is a nihda, is a thawra even, like a revolution. Right in the beginning, when it's very dangerous, things are very vulnerable, he gets up and goes blind. Yeah? Goes with one of the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and goes to, or one of the proper Shias of that time, it goes to ziyarat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, which you've all heard the story. During the time of Imam Sajjad, same thing. Imam al-Baqir, he meets Imam Baqir as a young child. This is, we've also heard, of course. He meets Imam al-Baqir as a young child. He sends the salams of the Prophet ﷺ to Imam al-Baqir. He says, your grandfather told me, one day I will meet you. And so his salams to you. This is beautiful. It's beautiful. It's such a poetic story, the story of Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari. But all of that on one side, but this ziyarat of Arba'in of Jabir on the other side. Look at that. He started a sunnah as if that till today, yes, people are upholding. And people have lost their lives maybe for it, but it's still happening. Yeah, they give everything in the way of the Arba'in. For me personally, and I've heard others say this too. You know what Arba'in is, brothers and sisters? Arba'in says to the world, to everybody, to Shaitan, to everything, that look, Imam Hussein got killed, and I did everything I could for him on the day of Ashura by commemorating and doing azat for him. But don't think that once Ashura is over, okay, so we will put Imam Hussein aside till next year. Arba'in says, no, the wound is still fresh. We went back to our homes, but now we're going to come back again and remember him again on this day. Inshallah, Allah gives tawfiq that one day things go back to normal and that we can, in a wholesome way and wholeheartedly, go for the ziyarat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Arba'in Ashura, anyway, any time throughout the year. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal asr. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bil sabr. Sadaqallahu al-aliyyul azim. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Ashhadu anna Aliyan waliyullahi wa annahu hujjatullah. Salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائما قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد لا إله إلا الله الحليم الكريم لا إله إلا الله العلي العظيم سبحان الله رب السماوات السبع ورب الأراضين السبع وما فيهن وما بينهن ورب العرش العظيم والحمد لله رب العالمين. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد يا من له الدنيا والآخرة ارحم من ليس له الدنيا والآخرة. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. تزيفات مصغرة. سلام الله عليها. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. Let's recite 5 times Amma Yujib. May Allah give shifa to all mu'mineen who are sick, inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء عما 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 يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل على Brothers and sisters, request please recite this Surah Fatiha for Marhumin of today's Niyaz sponsor with a loud salawat.
Mu'mineen, just a few quick announcements for upcoming programs. The Majalis for Arba'een, Imam Hussain alayhi salam and the Martyrs of Karbala, inshallah, start tomorrow night here at CFK with our speaker Shaykh Amin Rastani. For the nights of Saturday through Monday, we will inshallah have Salatul Maghribain at 7:35 p.m., followed by the recitation of the Holy Quran and then Soza Salam. The program will start by 8:15 p.m. and will inshallah end with Matandari and Ziyarat. For the day of Arba'een, that is Tuesday, September 28th, we will have the Ziyarat-e-Arba'een with English commentary by Shaykh Amin Rastani. Start inshallah at 7:15 p.m., followed by namaz at 7:35 p.m., and the rest of the program along the same schedule as the nights before. Please note these programs will continue to be restricted to vaccinated individuals, ages 12 and up only, keeping in mind the health of our community, especially our children. We are thankful for those who continue to understand and adhere to the SOPs. There is a private Matamdari program being held here at CFK tonight at 11 p.m. Mu'mineen are requested to attend. CFK is holding a virtual reality Karbala tour here, courtesy of VR Karbala, starting tomorrow through Tuesday. Open to vaccinated Mu'mineen ages 12 and up. For sign-ups and other information, please visit our WhatsApp group. continues to accept financial donations for the aid of our Afghan refugee brothers and sisters. For details on how to make the donation, please visit our CFK WhatsApp group. There you will also find information on how to donate time and donate in kind with the local Who Is Hussein team. And that's it. Par Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, salawat.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله وأنه حجة الله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كذلك الله ربي الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه. آل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. تزيفات مزرعة. سلام عليكم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Inshallah, recite Wahwadat all together. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا إله إلا الله إلها واحدا ونحن له مسلمون. لا إله إلا الله ولا نعبد إلا إياه مخلصين له الدين ولو كره المشركون. لا إله إلا الله ربنا ورب آبائنا الأولين. لا إله إلا الله وحده وحده أنجز وعده ونصر عبده وعز جنده وهزم الأحزاب وحده. فله الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت ويميت ويحيي وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير.
توجه زيارة. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام على الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. السلام على 9 المعصومين من ولد الحسين. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء ومعين الضعفاء والفقراء. أيها الرضا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.